I don't care. Mr. Beast. Damn. Almost broke the record. Almost, almost. Not too bad. Alright, let's do this. No, that slowed me down. Bro. Incredible. Like this is good on those micro adjustments though. It's a great one for micro adjustments.
The RTX Blackwell family, RTX 5070, 4090 performance at 549. Here's the whole family, starting from 5070 all the way up to 5090. 5090, twice the performance of a 4090. GPUs you buy, you save. That's right. The more GPUs you buy, the more money you save. The more you buy, the more you buy. The more GPUs you buy, the more you buy. 4090 performance.
see if luck's still on my side. Brother, it's just a game. Been streamed 1.5 billion times. This song blew up.
If you're a small content creator, I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment. I was actually senior red team specialist there, so offensive security. I'm a hacker. My last job was working for the federal government. I hacked power plants for the federal government, and then I also have 3 black badges from DEF CON, which is a hacking convention in Vegas every year. So this is like my whole wheelhouse, right? I've banned about 2 million players over my career. Like this is what I do. So the last 7 years now, I've been a streamer. I've been streaming and making video games and doing this kind of stuff. So now we're in this weird position where this thing happened, and I'm like the subject matter expert on the thing. So we're all talking about it and trying to find out what's going on. But I did a breakdown of what happened to you guys on stream the other day, and seeing that your machine had downloaded and run a cheat tool automatically in the middle of the game. And it's very clear that you didn't want that to happen because his text was in chat. The thing that was most interesting to me is if that guy hadn't put that in chat, there'd be no way that you could defend yourself. No one would believe it, right? So I'm actually glad that the attacker did that, where he put his text in chat, because that saved you guys a huge amount of trouble. But with this, what's up?
I was gonna say, well, for some reason, when he did to me, he never put any. So the main difference is that happened to Jen Burton. So the first thing that happens, you watch 2 different clips, right? So
yes,
with the whole like the text and like the display with like the cheats or whatever, or the checkboxes. That was with Jen Burton, and for some reason on my POV, he never typed in my chat or like in the in-game chat, and he never showed that like box of like checklists or whatever, like of cheats. Like it was just like I was literally just randomly granted like a bot out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing popped up on my screen. There was like compared to Jen Burton's POV, so that was like I don't know if that means anything, but. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. So here's something that I'm interested on this too. When that all occurred, right, and those started going through, did you see Jen Burton's actual texts going through, where it was advertising the hacker? Did that go into the lobby, or was that
no.
client side?
That was so like in-game chat. Unless you're like an admin of the lobby, it's not universal to the lobby. Like the messages that you type. So those messages that he was typing was only shown to his team. Only his team could see it.
Do we know if it actually went to the rest of his team or just to him?
It was the rest of his team, yeah.
Okay, so they had hooked the ability to do chat at that point. So in order to do that, they'd have to have access to the client memory or client functions, which would mean an injection into the client to do that, in order for that to send text like that. So that's interesting. The other thing from there is you did a virus scan afterwards, right? You used malware bytes? I saw a clip.
I used malware bytes and Windows, like this virus scan, and there was nothing. I didn't do a full like PC scan, but I just scanned and I didn't find anything.
Okay.
I did replace my PC entirely with another one, so I haven't
I'm not
touched another
surprised.
one.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Do you still have that PC where you can run scans on it and everything? I would be interested in seeing you run Malwarebytes again, but instead of doing like a quick scan, did you do a deep scan on it for like scan for rootkits and everything like that? Because there's a bunch of toggle options.
Just a quick scan.
I would do that. I would like keep that thing off the network for sure, but like turn it on and run a deep scan on it and do the advanced options, because there's an advanced options menu. Just check all the boxes and you're good to go. It's like 2 seconds. Because like if we can prove the difference between your machine being compromised directly, which could be possible, or the game being compromised, that's the big thing that has to be proven right now. And everyone's making a claim saying like, oh, the game is compromised, it's RCE, the easy anti-cheat is compromised, it's RCE. There's no proof of it. When we're dealing with security, we have to prove these types of vulnerabilities before we jump the gun and start making claims. And there's a ton of people just making wild claims right now. And the only one who can really prove that at that point is like you and Jen Burton. Were your machines compromised? If your machines aren't compromised, if we have no evidence of compromise on those machines, which this doesn't fully prove it, but it kind of tilts it in the direction where your machines weren't directly compromised, then we have to keep digging. And it's one of those things to like find out, is the client actually vulnerable? Is the server vulnerable? Is easy anti-cheat vulnerable? You know, there's a lot of stuff that has to be proven. And I hate all the wild claims. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I think, well, from my perspective, I can't really tell if my computer is compromised, just because I feel like he
Damn.
I think
I
he's
did bad on that
able
one.
to. He just decides not to. Like he wants to get like. I think his whole message is because he's been doing this for
I want to try
a
something
while.
weird
Like
though.
to give you context, it's like I ran into this guy. His name is like in game 2. You know, Destroyer 2009 or whatever. Like you've seen the bot clip and stuff like that.
Mhm.
He's been like terrorizing ranked like for a while now. Like just messing with ranked. Like he would just go into the lobby and he's like literally unbannable. And he would do this like. There was another thing because he was unbannable. He would do what is that? What is the word? Basically, he would be displayed as a console player, but he was on PC. He was like, I think he was using like an emulator. I think that's what it was called. So
Okay.
he was like practically like unbannable, which is why he would just stream snipe me and just like kill me every single game and stuff like that. But like he was literally just like untouchable in game. Like he was nobody would able to ban him or anything like that because he was like an emulator.
I also saw the video where he was spawning in a number of bots, and those bots were like kind of running after players automatically. It was like 40 plus bots jumping in. This makes me worry of one thing is access to the server in some capacity. So when you're dealing server side cheats like that, I also saw that he was able to generate about 4,000 packs in the game and hand them to another player. So I was talking to Mandy.
Yeah, he handed that to Mandy, me, and Jen Burton, and another person called his Watson. He handed me like 2,500 packs.
Yeah, he handed Mandy 4,000. So like I talked to Mandy the other day about this yesterday. We got a video out for that and was talking about it because if he's able to generate packs automatically, it's either going to be stolen credit cards, which is totally possible, right? They can do that kind of stuff. Unless are those purchasable in game, by chance?
The packs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could buy them. You can also gift them. Like you can, as a player, like a regular, like a casual, you can gift packs. I'm pretty sure to other people.
Okay. So at that point, it's like it could be stolen credit cards, buying a shitload of packs. That's possible. It could be based on the other types of exploitations he has. I'm worried that he has a client that is sending information up to the server, the server's accepting it, or he has direct access to the server. It seems unlikely that he has direct access to the server, like remote code execution.
Server.
He could.
He was crashing the server.
Crashing the server is one thing. Getting direct full access to the server, like administrator access to the server, is totally different. When we have a client to a server, right? So we've got a client, and the client connects up to the server. It sends packets back and forth. So the client will send a packet, the server will send packets back. If the client sends up a packet that is malformed in some way and says, hey, I'm actually a console player now. If the server just accepts that without checking to see if it's true first, these types of things can be done. If you send a bunch of stuff up to the server and say, I'm actually 40 accounts now, spawning all these dudes, and the server just accepts it, then you get these types of problems. So it could be that he has a modified hack client that can do these types of things, and the server's just allowing for it, which is kind of bad testing. You get rid of that with fuzzing testing generally, where you check all the inputs and make sure that the client is a dummy, not able to run the server, if that makes sense. Not able to inform the server what to do. Just it's a dummy that displays things. Or he has direct server access, which is scarier, right? And we can't really tell the difference between those two things, but it's very clear he's instructing the server in some way with these types of exploits, and that's spooky. So that's one we can't really solve until we find out exactly how this is being done.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know. Like you could probably name anything. He's probably done it. Like he can crash the server on his own will. He can. I don't even think he has to be in the game. Oh, maybe I think he actually has to be in the game to do that.
So he has to be in the game. That's interesting.
Yeah, it seems like he has to be in the same lobby as you to crash the server. I don't think he had. Like if he isn't, then he can't. But So there's been cases where he's in the lobby and he crashes the server, but then there's also been recently where my game, like the server crashes, obviously due to somebody doing it. Like it's not just like Apex server just crashing out of nowhere. Someone's deliberately crashing my server within like the first minute or two of like playing the game.
Do you know who's in the game when that happens?
No, I have no idea. I don't know like if he's in my lobby because he's not like chasing me or anything. Like he's not trying to kill me. He's just like deliberately like trying to just crash my game before I even get to play. Right? Yeah. I have no idea if he's actually in the lobby or not. But I know in the past when he was doing it, he was in the lobby. So
yeah, that lends credence more to the client. Like if he has to be in game, then it lends more credence to a hacked client that is able to inform the server on what to do. Which this could be fixable then. Like Like
Why doesn't
they
it
could
show?
find out what's going on by looking at server logs and trying to stuff. And I guarantee the security team is already doing that. I guarantee they're already digging through all of that shit to try and find a way to do this. 100%. So
Well, they disabled my account and my teammates. For some reason, they disabled my teammate's account too.
Look at
even though
that.
he didn't
They
get
don't
hacked.
want to show
So,
my
but yeah, my account's been
greatness here.
disabled since they've been
Second
like
place,
just investigating
first
it.
place.
So.
have
That's
they reached out to you guys?
crazy,
Are they
ain't
at
it?
least talking to you guys about it? Of like, hey,
Yeah, I was told I was supposed to get unbanned yesterday morning, and then obviously that, I didn't expect that to happen, and so they needed more time, so, but yeah, they've been just, like, still working on it.
I'm glad they're talking to you guys about it, though, because likely what they're doing there is they're looking through all the logs. They're looking through absolutely everything that was going on. They're trying to determine the cause of this, because if they can figure it out with it being this egregious, they can turn this around. And the fact that they've got your account shut down, that sucks, but it is definitely for the best to determine the cause of the vulnerability. Because
Yeah, for sure.
there's so many different types of ways that this can be done. That's why I'm like trying to investigate all of this, because my big thing throughout the industry was like pattern recognition to determine the cause of exploitation, or to determine ways of finding ways to catch people doing this, right? Find ways to catch botters, find ways to catch cheaters using manual methods and heuristics. So when I get this kind of information, it's like, oh, he's likely to be in game. He's more often in game when this happens than when he's not.
Yeah.
That means he probably had a client to server cheat in some way, where the client was informing the server, and maybe evolved it over time where he's like, well, I don't want to be in game anymore. That's a hassle. I need to be able to get this server instance remotely and then shut that down remotely. And he evolved his tool set, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There was another, I don't know if I should say this, but like there was another time. So
Well, don't put yourself in any bad
No.
position if you're not
Look
allowed
at that.
to
You
talk
saw
about
it
something.
first
It
place
should be
right
fine.
here.
I think it's like pretty worth it to like speak about it because this is probably
Okay.
gonna help you. Like there, when he was crashing my server without me knowing if he's not in my lobby or not. I had performance display on, which is like an option in the game where it displays your like FPS, your packet loss, your ping, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it also, I don't know if it displays the server ID or something like it displays something that's related to the server. And as soon as I like turned it off, he was not able to do that anymore because I guess he didn't obtain information off that performance display to like
Yes.
Crash the server. Or unless EA or something, they like patched something, right? In the back end while that was going on and stopped it because it stopped happening after I turned that off.
So the server is just, yeah, I know that look. This chat's not me getting all excited about it. He's getting the server ID through your client that way if it's actually displaying that server ID, which is allowing him to target the actual server. There's likely going to be a command somewhere that is a packet that is being sent up to the server that's allowing him to do these modifications. With that in mind, when he jumps into the game, his client gives him the server ID. So he's targeting your server instance based on that ID that's inside of your menu, the one that you disabled. That makes absolute sense. That's 100% it. So for him to be able to do things, he has to pull some information, either from a streamer that is displaying that information for the particular lobby that they're in, or with his own character that is in that lobby as well. That makes sense. Yeah, this lends more and more to him not having direct access to the server. It seems incredibly unlikely that he has direct access to the server now. It seems way more likely that it's a client that is telling the server what to do, because he needs that information. There's a little bit of fog of war where he has to do a little bit of footwork to find the target correctly.
Yeah.
Obfuscating server ID, would that help? I would want to know what if they can figure out what command is being sent, where it is including that, they can kill this. If that is the only way of getting through for it. It is, you'll find very often that many issues like this start with a single seed vulnerability, like one thing that is wrong, right? And they just find newer and weirder ways to use that vulnerability to gain extra powers, slowly gaining a foothold with this. So with him having that one thing, we have a common goal here, which is get the server ID before I can do exploits. And if he can get the server ID and then do exploitation after that, that's a really interesting failure in terms of what happens if you obfuscate that from the client. What happens if you stop showing that to the player?
No.
What happens if the client is unable to pull the server ID because it's stored fully server-side? If they do that, and that dude's entire cheat, suite, is based on him getting the server ID, he loses. It's always about finding a novel way of shutting down the attacker.
That seems like a good route. That seems like a possible route.
Don't you agree though that the whole scenario that happened during the tournament is way different than like what he does during ranked?
I agree. Yes, I super agree. That being said, that one I am worried about in regards to not RCE yet, because RCE is a very serious thing, and for him to get RCE on your client, he would need to get RCE to the server, execute code on the server to pass down to get another RCE vulnerability on your client. Chain vulnerabilities like that do exist. They're insanely tricky to pull off. There also is no guarantee that the client and the server are vulnerable in a way that would be allowed, if that makes sense. So that's why I was like, well, Occam's razor on this a little bit. It is more likely that the end user's machine, so yours and the other machine, are compromised directly. Which is why I was looking down the route. It's like, if we can prove direct compromise on the machine, then that is more likely. It doesn't mean that it's not impossible to get RCE in that way. It just means it's less likely, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There was also, to give you even more context, like during the day of like the tournament, so there was two things that happened, and it was kind of like, it was out of the ordinary, so that's why I'm bringing it up, and I don't know if it means anything.
Sure.
So like the very first thing that happened that was like kind of random, I don't remember exactly when it happened. Like I'd have to watch my VOD. I don't know if it was before the tournament started or after one of the games. It might have been after the second game, but there was a time where I was just sitting in the lobby waiting for the game to start, like the next game for the tournament, and my screen like went black. But it was like my whole screen went black, and there was like an Apex loading logo on the bottom right, and then my screen went back to normal, back to like the lobby where I was. And I don't know if that's like where he just like went into my account, entered my account at that time, which is why my screen went black, because that's never happened before.
Could be when the client, because in the case of what was being displayed in game, your client had to be hooked, injected. It could be the game client reacting to the injection happening right then. He was likely in the client from that moment on. If that's not something that you normally see with the game, and that's something that's never happened before, yeah, that could make sense. You know, that could make sense as the moment of intrusion, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the second thing that happened, I don't know if I was just like tripping, like I was asking Jen Burn if this happened to him, but I remember like when I did get like the aimbot, when I would like ADS or like look at something, like there was times where my screen looked off. I don't know, it looked like as if like my screen was being mirrored in a way, maybe, or like I don't know how to describe it. Like you would have to be like in person to see my screen, but it was like, yeah, maybe it might have been my FOV change. I don't think it was, but it just like my screen like looked different, like as if I was like I knew it was gonna happen, like in my head, like before I shot my gun. I don't know how to describe it, but I don't know if that is normal or not, but definitely my screen has something like changed, like I don't know if it was texture or a mirror effect from like him cloning his PC or something.
Would you say that it's like, you'll have to describe the effect to me a little bit? Yeah, it's a little bit hard to understand. Would you mean that like the resolution changed in some way, or do you think that maybe there was a slight delay on actions?
No, there was no delay. Resolution was still the same. It was just like maybe there was like a little bit of distortion of like where I was like aiming at, if that makes any sense, like visually. So like
the aim was like weird, is what you mean?
Yeah, like it just looked weird. Like before I even shot, in my head it registered, oh shit, like, you know, this looks weird, like something's gonna happen. Like that's what like went through my head.
No, I mean it makes sense. Like when you play a game as much as you guys do at the pro level, man, like anything that feels off with the client, it's gonna not make sense to a lot of us because we don't play the game that much. But any minutia that is like 0.1% off that feels wrong, they're like, no, the game's wrong, something's wrong. And it makes sense. You guys spend thousands of hours in that game, tens of thousands of hours.
Yeah, I have like almost 11,000 hours, so like as soon as I saw something like off or like just, you know, like even 1% of the time, I could tell. So
yep. So yeah, that totally makes sense. It's gonna be weird because like anybody else is gonna be like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But dude, when somebody plays a game this much, when they've played in that game for 11,000 hours, anything
the
off,
fuck?
like,
Why is my
no,
switching so high
that doesn't
now?
make sense. Like
My
something
switching is crazy
wrong.
right
And
now.
people are like, what are you talking about? It looks the same. No,
they know because they've spent that long in the game.
Another thing to add, Jen Burns like DM'd me, which is the other guy that like got hacked. He said that he like did like a full root scan and full scan, and he did not find anything on his PC.
So, as much as I want that to clear up the idea that it was a compromised machine, attackers can clean up after themselves. While the attack was going on, how long was it before you guys turned off your machines?
Well, for me personally, like maybe I don't know. I would have to watch because I stayed
It's
on
like
for
hours?
at least like 2-3 hours maybe.
Yeah. The only way that you would have been able to stop him from cleaning up after himself at that point, it would be plug pull immediately. Just like, boop, no more connection, no more, you can't do shit. Yeah. Unfortunately, I wish, God, it's like a crime scene, right? It's like a tampered crime scene at that point. So it's hard to know if he had direct access through the game client, or it's hard to know if he had direct access through a compromise on your guys' machine. Damn. Well, yeah, deleting files after, it's pretty normal. So cleanup kind of stuff is pretty normal in terms of infections like that.
By
you'd be
20,
amazed
I'll
at how often
take
that
it.
happens, even inside of corporate environments where like companies get knocked over by nation states pretty commonly, and then they clean up after themselves afterwards. It's generally just seen as training most of the time. So you'll get all these people that enter a network, they just cause a mess, and then like 30 minutes later, with all these alarms going off, they ghost, they disappear. All the logs are gone. It's like they were never there, and it's because their lead showed up and then showed them how to disappear. And it's training. We see it all the time inside of companies. The companies get knocked over constantly. So like, even a basic understanding of how to clean up would be easy to do there, and it'd be really hard to detect afterwards, which sucks. I don't know what the level of skill of the attacker is, but if he's been doing this for a long enough time, he probably has some skills behind him, which is good, right? So he's got that. He's just using it for shitty reasons. Unfortunately, like, being part of the hacking community for long as I have, right? Most of the people from our community, we just want to solve a puzzle. And some people, especially younger people, don't really care about the implications of that for the people that are in the path, right? This is dude just solving a puzzle. He wants to see what he can do with it. He doesn't really care what anyone else feels about it. It's pretty normal. It's awful. It's sad because someone that's that willing to solve the puzzle, that willing to go and dig into tech like this, would be a force for good inside of the industry. He can find amazing shit. He can fix amazing shit. And instead it goes this route, which sucks, you know.
Yeah.
Does APEC have unique vulnerabilities? Don't know. What we're trying to determine at this point is what is the scope of the vulnerability, right? Is the client vulnerable? If so, how? If the client is vulnerable, we should be able to reproduce it. If the client is not vulnerable, then how did they get in these two players' machines? If Easy Anti-Cheat is vulnerable, why didn't he use this on more machines? What is the scope, right? And anytime you have vulnerabilities like this is the normal investigation process. You talk to everybody involved, you find out every piece of information you can, you put together all that information, and then you put together likely scenarios, and you go, well, let's investigate each of these likely scenarios. Hacking and conflict resolution stuff like this for hacking, for like you're trying to find out, what happened when this goes on, it's a shitload of research, man. And you go down every rabbit hole possible because you need to prove before you make a statement. And there's too many people on the internet making statements before proving. So.
Well, everyone's a programmer or like a hacker as soon as things happen. So
Yeah, I read it on Reddit, so I know, It's ridiculous.
Typical.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, no, this is really useful information, actually. So I think, for me, the biggest thing that I got out of this, man, the server ID thing. That is so important. That is so important, and I'm sure that they know. I'm sure that the security team knows. But for the general community, this makes more sense. If he can use if he can find out the server ID that you're on, and he can only execute attacks if he knows your server ID, then that makes more sense that it's just a modified client and the server listening to it. It is much less likely that he has access to the server.
Well,
We'll see.
Another thing is that, like, a while ago, like, this is before Destroyer 2009's, like, existence, like, was a thing. There was, like, a long time ago in Apex where people, like, lobbies would get DDoS. Like, this is what we would call it. Like, not the servers just straight up crashing.
Yeah.
Basically, the lobbies would be so overloaded to the point where the server would cause the crash, but it would take a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we would do all of these things where it turn off our display, and stuff like that, and it still would happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that it means anything, or
It does.
DDoSing and like crashing the server is two different things.
So DDoSing is a completely different thing. The way the denial service works is you're connected to the game server. Game server is just like any other computer. It has an IP address, right? And you know what that IP address is, or the range of IP addresses that are available for certain types of service in the instances. Hitting that with a whole bunch of traffic that looks like normal people is going to blow up the server. In denial of service, the defender always loses, and that's a shitty thing to think about. But unless the defender has more hardware in place, they lose, and it's because the attacker can be faster, they can be leaner. When you are sending an attack, you're just saying, "Hey, I want to connect to your server," and the server has to take that down and go, "Are you allowed to connect to my server? Are you from an IP that I have blocked? Is this an okay connection to do?" It has to make so many more choices on the defense side that the attacker always wins, because the attacker can use less processing power to destroy the defender, if that makes sense. So it's just that you always lose with DDoS. The only thing you do is just have bigger infrastructure. So we deal with things like Cloudflare, they just have massive infrastructure. Be like, we're going to put this huge infrastructure in the way. And even Cloudflare has fallen over before. Half the internet went down with them when it happened, too. It was wild. So, like, you'll see some wild stuff like that in terms of denial of service. But yeah, with denial of service, they just need to know the address of the server, which is trivial when your game client is connecting to the servers, right? Same thing happens for World of Warcraft, same thing happens for that. And back in the day, if you remember Lizard Squad, right? You remember that? When they brought down WoW server all the time? That was using low orbit ion cannon, which is like, actually in that case, I think they were actually using Lizard Stressor.
They used
so they were supposed to using Lizard Stressor, which was like low orbit ion cannon, which is a DDoS service where you can actually get a whole bunch of bots that just go and try and DDoS one target. And the IP addresses for WoW servers were public, so you just nuke them. That was it. It was just
I must spend
it's
a
like
little
having
bit
a
extra
gun.
time
You
here.
just point it at it, and all these devices try to go connect to the server and it just blows up. Normal stuff. So yeah, that's a totally different attack and much easier to pull off. What he's doing is a little bit more sophisticated, but requires this critical piece of information, the server ID. That makes this more interesting, and it gets us closer to understanding what causes the vulnerability, and closer to understanding what could be done to stop it, right? And I'm sure if the security team didn't already know this, which they could, this is going to be helpful for them to know. And it's helpful for the community because it gives them context, makes them feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope you don't feel super bad. I know it's probably really stressful.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's just been like a pain to like try to stream because I haven't had my account.
Yeah.
But I figured it out now. But other than that, like I'm not. In my eyes, like you said earlier, I feel like this guy is, you know, what he knows what he's doing to a degree. It's more sophisticated than the usual hacks. So I feel like people are like, you know, blowing it up. You know, they can, you know, hack into your keylog view,
cow,
etc.
man.
And I'm just like, if he wanted to do that, he would have done it by now, right?
Yep.
So like, I'm still taking precautions.
I still didn't break.
I don't think. I really feel like his
So close though.
is to exploit how bad Apex's security, or I guess anti-cheat is.
Yes.
And he just wants to exploit that as much as possible.
Yeah, there are some people that gain, like, kind of positive feelings out of that. They choose the target and they run with it, right? His whole thing right now is he wants to focus on Apex.
Play some Omni.
Whatever that, for whatever reason. You know, whatever internal reason, mechanism is for that. For me, it's easy to get in, like, it's easy to kind of get ahead of yourself and be like, I'm going to get inside this guy's head to determine why. It's not really about why. It's about what, right? So, like, when you find out what the dude is doing, like how he's doing this, the big how, you don't have to convince him to change, because that's a choice he's making. It's a choice that he doesn't care about the morality of it. He doesn't give a shit. He just wants to solve the puzzle. It's a drive. I feel the same thing when I'm doing that kind of stuff, but I do it in scope when I'm hired to do it, right? I love solving the puzzle when I'm hired to solve the puzzle. It's like being a bloodhound, right? You go after it.
Yeah, it gives you like a sense of power. So
It feels awesome, and you're like, I solved the puzzle. It feels good, and you're like, cool. You were paid to do it, but this guy's solving the puzzle in a way that's detrimental to others, and it's clear he doesn't care, right? So, like, I get it. The thing that's kind of rough about this one is the way that he's doing it is he's gone from kind of just cheating in games to getting more and more of this, and now he's trying to cause as much public damage as possible, but there's no rhyme or reason as to why. Normally, an attacker would release his methods at some point, right? Be like, this is how I'm doing this, go fix this. It's not doing that. It's keeping it private. So they have to do an investigation to figure it out, and that's rough. And for those out there who think like, oh, you know, Respawn's doing a shitty job, or like Apex is bad, or the security team is awful, whatever the hell it is, right?
You have to understand that they can't communicate any of this stuff. They can't. Because if they communicate these types of things, there's a
I
couple
did
things
pretty
that
bad on
happen. They
that
open
one.
themselves up to legal liability, to financial liability, depending on what's going on. And then on top of it, they tip their hand to the attacker. All of this stuff is bad. You don't want to do that. It's fog of war, right?
Yeah.
And with that in mind, they can't talk about this stuff. More often than not, they can't say shit. So the best thing you can do, cheer those devs on. You may feel like they're not doing enough, but they can't tell you everything that they're doing. So if you can cheer them on and say, hey, this sucks. What can I do to help? What kind of information can we give you? How can we report this stuff? The more that you can be their echelon, their giant system of radars and information, the better they can fix this stuff. That's all you can do at this point, you know? My chat is full of spiders. God damn it. Chat, why? Oh, they're all spiders now. Apex situation is scary. It's only scary because we don't know, right? And for me, I'm excited about it because I'm like, I don't know how he did this. And the moment you said server ID, I'm so excited because it's like we're getting a little bit closer to figuring this out. And I think the community is going to feel a lot better overall the more information that we can find out and determine for the methods. And my hope is that at the end of this trail, we find what's called a proof of concept, which is this is how the vulnerability is done, this is how the company fixed it, and this is how it's not going to happen again in the future. Full disclosure on that kind of stuff would be great. I don't know if they'll ever do that. I don't know if we'll ever get that, but that would be my
They
hope.
probably won't.
Yeah.
They probably won't. People are. I don't know if you're busy, but someone actually brought up a good point. The majority of the competitors, they're all like forced if you're streaming to stream on a 10-minute delay, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually perfect timing. It actually makes a lot of sense too. Coincidentally, I don't know. I haven't checked the
Interesting.
timestamp of server ID and 10-minute delay, but what if
Right.
there might be a coincidence of him